Hello, Victoria. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can, and I can see you. Good evening.
Good evening. How you doing?
Nice to see you in person. I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad.
Okay, that's good. All right, all right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining this session. Thank you so much for joining this session once more. Good evening, everyone. I'd like for us to tell us where we are joining from. If you are joining from Nigeria, if you're joining from Rwanda, no matter what country you are joining from, please let us know in the comments wherever you are joining from. Thank you. We have Nigerians. We have another Nigerian. We have Kenyan. Welcome. Thank you all for joining. We have someone from the UK. Thank you for joining. All right, I am super super excited. So I'd like for us to just get into it and just let's enjoy. So we have somebody from Rwanda here. Hello, you really need investment, don't everyone? But we're here to learn about that. Thank you so much for joining in once more. Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria, and I'll be your host for this exciting session. Welcome to today's webinar on how founders can secure investment and manage startup. Thank you so much. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to acknowledge the month we are in, which is March, Women's Month. Yay for the women. This is a time to celebrate and empower women in businesses, especially female founders who are breaking barriers, leading innovative startups, and shaping the face of entrepreneurship. I celebrate such women who are here tonight, and even if they are not here, I celebrate women because we're in Women's Month. And today we have an incredible guest who is doing all that. I am very excited, super excited to welcome Kikelomo, who is a finance and strategy expert with over 5 years of experience in startup, fundraising, and venture building. She is the fractional CFO at Start Smart and the CEO of SheFoundry, where she supports founders in securing an investment and scaling their businesses. This is going to be a powerful, powerful session. Please know that I'll be taking questions, so get your questions ready, get your notes ready. I'm excited to invite Makike Lomo. It's such an honor to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for that warm welcome. And thank you so much for spotlighting us women. It is really lovely to be here today and to also be hosted by your lovely self, Victoria. I can also see that we have a lot of people joining from different places. It's really nice to be here today. Thank you so much for the invitation. And yes, I would get right into it. So today, yes, as rightly introduced, my name is Kikelomo Owoyale, and I am the CEO of SheFoundry Ltd. Hi, Victoria. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I'm Kikelomo Owoyale, the CEO of SheFoundry Limited. I also help organizations with their books and finances. So today we will be talking on funding and financial readiness, how founders can secure investment and manage their startup finances. So we are going to be having four different modules. I was informed that this is an hour session, and then we'll be taking part of it for the speaking engagement as well as the other part for questions Q&A session. So I would be running through the module really fast. So we would be having four modules. The first one would be why funding. Why do we need to raise fund? The second module would be what funding type fits your specific startup. The third module would be investment readiness, and the last module would be post fundraising management for African startups. So I would like us to do something while I start. While I get into the conversation, I would like us to introduce ourselves in the chat box, our name, our startup as well, and where it is currently operational. Our name, our startups, and the place of operation. Can we do that real quick so we can also get to know ourselves real better? So I would be expecting responses from our audience. All right, so entering into the first module, why funding? Thank God they brought our light. Nigeria at work. Oh my God. You just have to be innovative if you're in Nigerian, trust me. Okay, all right, let's move on. So, why funding? So we all have different reasons why we raise capital for our businesses. So what exactly is your primary reason for being here today? Why are you listening in on the session? Why exactly are you trying to raise funds? So I'd like the responses real fast. I really wish we could unmute our mic, but I was told that I would have to do with just chatting. So I would like us to be as participative as possible. So please kindly send in your response. I would be very glad to read them as we continue with this engagement. So different startups have different reasons why they raise fund. Some raise fund because they want to grow, while some it's just a matter of survival. The company not going into extinction and also extending their runway. And while some are chasing after credibility, they want customers and partners to know that this is the business they can trust, and that can also be gotten through fundraising. Now, whatever reason why you're raising fund, there is fundraising or funding itself cannot be underemphasized as it plays a critical role in any organization. You need it to survive, you need it to grow, you need it for the sake of credibility. But however, one thing I've realized is that funding is not the end goal, and this is a misconception that needs to be corrected. A lot of people or a lot of founders raise funds because they just want to get that capital, they just want to cash out. But why exactly are we raising fund? Is it the end goal, or is it a fuel that is taking us to our destination? So take for let's use a classical example, something that we can all relate with: your car, and it's taking you from point A to point B. But how do you get there? You need fuel in your car to take you from point A to point B. So whenever I see founders raise funds, and then a lot of people start congratulating them, hey, Baba, you raised funds. Oh my God, I'm so happy for him. And now, one thing we don't realize is that when they raise funds, that is when the pressure is getting, permit me for my use of what's it called, that is when the pressure is getting worse. That is when they now have a lot to actually do, because they need to utilize that funding effectively in order to be able to raise the second round. So like I said, if you're not going to take anything out of this session, one thing that should ring a bell is that funding is actually a tool and not the end goal. So it is important that you use it strategically when you are able to finally raise. So it is counterintuitive to be raising for investors and not raising for founders. Actually, this is one of the major bottlenecks that I see that affect a lot of founders. They just want to raise funds for the sake of raising funds while not thinking about their target audience. And investors, once they smell this or they sense this, trust you me, they wouldn't want to invest in your business because they know that you haven't. Oh, beautiful, beautiful to meet you, Almarat Anu. All right. So because they know that you haven't done your due diligence, you haven't put the necessary things you need to put in place, you just want to raise fund, and they know that that fund will be mismanaged if you eventually raise it. We've heard of several cases. Even today, it's really sad. Even today, I still saw, like, I'm on a particular group, on a particular community. Shout out to WO community by Onyeka. So I'm on that group, and I still saw like 3 fundraising what's it called, disaster news about organizations that are closing down because they were unable to efficiently manage their fund. And this, actually, there's a root cause to this, which is them not planning efficiently and just raising funds for the sake of, oh, everybody's cashing out, everybody's doing it, why not I do it as well? So in the course of this engagements, we would understand if this equity funding is even for us, if it is even necessary for us to actually get VC funding. A lot of people want to get VC funding without actually understanding what it actually takes and what is also required. So we would be entering into the under Y funding, the different stages of funding. So I'm sure that a lot of us are familiar with this, but for the sake of those that are just getting introduced to equity funding, let's go through the stages. So we have the pre-seed stage. The pre-seed stage is the stage of ideation. You have a brilliant idea that is giving you sleepless nights, and you want to turn this idea into a minimum viable product. That means a product that can help you with your market validation. Now you have this brilliant idea and you want to turn it into an MVP. This is where your pre-seed funding comes in. The typical amount is usually around 50K to 500K, and your investor type is angels and accelerators. So you can't be raising pre-seed and you are reaching out to venture capital. You are just wasting your time, and time, we know, is precious. So you need to understand what level of what stage of funding you are at for you to also align it with the outreach you'll be doing in your organization. So like I said, we have pre-seed and angels and accelerators. So this week, an accelerator still reached out to me seeking for startups that fit into their portfolio. Now imagine that we are now sending them organizations that are already raising Series A. That would be a waste of time and effort. So it's essential that you align whatever stage of startup or stage of funding you are currently in with the organization you are reaching out to. So the next one is the seed stage. The seed stage is MVP to traction stage. So you already have your product. I also had a should I call it a new connection that also reached out and said, oh, they've launched their product. They had their luncheon. I think that was last month or so, and then now what they are struggling with is gaining traction. So at that point in time, that organization no longer need pre-seed. What they need is a seed fundraising, which ranges, the typical check size for seed fundraising is 500K to 2 million, and those you reach out to are your angel investors or your micro VCs. Now for Series A, when you are getting to the point of Series A, it means, oh, you've gotten enough traction. It is now time to start scaling that business. It is time to introduce new products into it or new features into it, and then just scale, maybe enter into other states and all of that. So the typical check size for Series A is 2 million to 15 million, and this is the time where you now approach your VCs or the VCs that are out there. And then we have Series B and other stages of fundraising. So the key point you need to note is that for pre-seed seed, at that point you're still proving your potential. You're in the what do we call it now, team setup stage, your ideation, your early traction for your pre-seed and seed. And then your Series A, you are starting to scale your businesses. You're seeing revenue already, your unit economics and all of that. So we would be moving on to, okay, so I'm just going to share a case study, which is that of Airbnb when they raised their seed round in 2009. So they raised 600K at a 2.4 million pre-money valuation. At that point in time, they already had traction, but they needed to scale. At that time, they were still doing air mattresses. That was their business model, and they needed to scale, and they had to raise that seed funding. Now, there's a lot of misconception whereby some founders believe that, oh, if I'm not able to raise VC fund, that means that's the end for my business. But we'll still get to the point where we would see other alternative source of funding that we can actually explore aside the traditional venture capital fund. Now, I would like, this is meant to be an engaging session. All right. Okay, please give me a minute.
All right, everyone. I hope we're enjoying this session like I am. I'm already writing down things that I'm going to use for my startup, already gaining things. I hope we're working with our pen and our book, writing down ideas, writing down notes, writing down innovations, writing down everything we are gaining from here.
All right, thank you, our lovely hosts. So I would be going ahead with the session. So this is meant to actually be an engaging session where I present different case studies, and then we identify what level of funding stage they are currently at and the organizations they should reach out to. So the first case study, I hope we are all attentive because I'll be expecting responses, at least one person per one case study. So the first case study is FarmSense. This is an hypothetical organization, so that you don't go and search for them, and it's possible that we have one. So they have three agri-engineer founders, and then they have a product, an IoT sensor for smallholder farmers to monitor their soil health. Now their traction, they have 30% yield improvement in pilot, but is $0 revenue. Team size, just 5 people, 3 tech experts and 2 business personnel. Now they are looking to raise 200K to refine their hardware and launch in 3 states. Now, what stage of funding are we going to call that? Anyone, please? Anyone? Are we all together? Our host, how do we confirm that we are all together?
I think our main host, Bloomin, can confirm that for us. So I have people saying proceed.
All right, proceed. Is it proceed? Okay, yes, that was a perfect response. And Mr. Shola, I see you. Okay, so yes, that is proceed because they are currently at no revenue and prototype, and the investors they would then reach out to. So you can't expect them at the pre-seed level to be reaching out to VCs. Like I said, it would be a waste of time. So the kind of investors they should be looking at are angel networks, angel investors. Also, there's also another point to also note, which is also the industry. It is also essential that you're also reaching out to investors that are actively investing in your industry. Some will say they are industry agnostic. Okay, so I've had some conversations with some investors, and they will start with, we are industry agnostic, but the moment I hear but, I already know that, okay, you might be industry agnostic, which means that the exception might just be 1 or 2% exception, but they always have a focus thesis. So they call it thesis, investment thesis. So if you are into agriculture and then you are sending your decks or your financial information to an organization that is investing in e-commerce, that is a complete mismatch, even though it is an angel investment network. However, they are not actively investing in agricultural businesses. Then that's a mismatch and a waste of time. So you also need to ensure that, aside from checking the kind of organization that suits the funding stage, you also have to also understand the investment thesis of that institution. All right, so Mr. Shola got that right. So we're going to enter into the second case study. So I'm going to give this is Quara, startup name, and then they are a digital banking platform for credit unions in Kenya. Now the attraction is $40,000 monthly recurring revenue, and they've already onboarded 15 credit unions. Are we all together? Let me start again. Quara is the startup name. They have, their product is a digital banking platform for credit unions, and then the attraction, 40,000 monthly recurring revenue, and 50 credit unions have been onboarded. They have a team size of 12 people, and their goal is to expand to Uganda and Tanzania. And their ask, very important, is 1.5 million for tech as well as partnership. So what category are we going to call this? Anyone in the room? Anyone? I'm asking for $1.5 million to expand and to also get partnership. So what category are we going to call that? Anyone? Okay, I'm waiting. Someone said pre-seed. Okay, let's see if it's right. Someone said seed. Okay, I need two more responses. Two more responses. Two more. I want to make sure that my class is following everything I've been saying. Oh, wow, interesting. We have Series A. Okay. One more response, and then I'll be able to share the answer. Okay, so meaning that we have just three responses. Oh, all right. So we have two seed, we have one pre-seed, and then we have one Series A. Okay, all right. So since the organization has already generated, remember we said they've generated traction of $40,000 monthly recurring revenue. They also have the traction of having 15 credit unions on board. However, their ask is $1.5 million for tech and partnership, and they also have 12 people. So that falls under, drum roll please. Can we have drum rolls? That falls under seed. But one thing I also need you to note is that sometimes it might not be exactly that category. So sometimes, so take for instance, Money Point raised $110 million at Series C valuation. So there are some organizations that might raise it at another level. So sometimes it is not a very straight, what do we call it? It's not just straightforward like that. But yes, it's within that seed and then the Series A level. I hope that we are all together. But yes, definitely seed. Now let's move on. Okay, so it seems that everybody is together and then we all understand the different stages for funding. Now we will be moving on to the different funding types for your startup. So we've gotten to the different funding levels. So now we will be moving on to the different funding types for your startup, because a lot of people, I don't know if it is a conditioning, but everybody just believes that it is either VC or nothing. But there are other kinds of investments that can go into your businesses. So we have the bootstrapping. bootstrapping are actually for the big boys. I would not lie, because bootstrapping means that you are using your own fund because you believe so much in this idea and you know that it is actually going to solve a unique problem in your environment. Now you're trusting that your what do we call it now? Your investment into the business is going to yield returns. So bootstrapping is when you use your personal funds to develop the business. What are the pros, or what is the pro of having bootstrapping your business? So it means that you would be able to keep control of your business, and then it also prevents you from early dilution of your equity. That's one of the advantages that bootstrapping offers. And the con is that while you are maybe struggling to put in, let me use the Nigeria currency, you're struggling to put in maybe 2 million naira, 5 million naira into your business, or let's use dollars, you're struggling to put in 5,000, 2,000 into your business. Someone else is out there with a pre-seed fund of, let's say, 150K dollars, and they're moving at light speed. So bootstrapping is one of those alternatives to VC funding. We have grants. Grants is not the easiest, but when it comes in, grants means your equity is non-dilutive. Nobody is how do I want to call it? Nobody is trying to fight for your equity. It is all yours. So grants are non-dilutive, and we have organizations like Tony Elumelu Foundation, AFDB, AgriPitch, and some other organizations that give grants to businesses. However, the con of grants is that it is bureaucratic, and there's also the issue of slow disbursement. So I know that for TEF last year, a lot of people complained about delayed in disbursement. So this is one of the disadvantage of grants, and it's not easy to also get. But if you have your proper documentation, and then you are able to get expert guidance, then grant is possible. Okay, and then we have the angel. So just like, what angel, when you hear angel, what does it, what emotion does it elicit in you? So if you hear angels, you think helper, someone who is here to help me. So for angels are those ones that are able to invest in your businesses at the early stage of your business. So these are guys that can write you small checks. However, some of them might lack expertise, while when you go to maybe the coordinated angel investors, then they might have experts onboarded in their network. Then we have VC. For VC, you scale fast, and VC requires a whole lot. There is a whole lot they require from founders who raise venture capital funds, such as certain month-on-month growth requirements that are very, very stringent. And then we have debt funding. Debt funding, a lot of people run away from debt funding. There's the Cover 360 news that we just heard about them raising too much debt, and then it's affecting their liquidity as well as their operations. So debt funding has its own advantage, but it is not for every business to actually take in debt funding. There are organizations that are able to take that in, especially those that are not at the early stage of their business. So if you are starting up your business, you still have the idea and you've not even tested your market, it is not advisable to take in debt at that point in time. But if you already have constant revenue, constant traction, and you are able to pay back, and your monthly revenue is able to at least pay back the interest, and you still have enough funds available, then it might be advisable to take up debt funding. But debt funding, it is critical that you understand financial management for you to be able to take in debt funding into your business, and it is not advisable for early stage startups. So I would like to also do another exercise. Okay, I can see. All right, Bloomin wrote debt funding. So I would like to quickly do an exercise. So for those that have stated their businesses, kindly, based on everything I've said now, drop on the chat the kind of funding that your business needs right now. So is it bootstrapping? Is it VC? Is it debt funding? What kind of funding does your business need right now? I'm waiting. I won't go ahead with the lecture until I hear. Our host is not also excluded. So I'm waiting. Anyone? Okay. Hello, are we all there? Okay, so while we wait for or is it investors? Is it only investors we have on this session? It's possible that we have only investors. Oh. Okay, so while we wait for responses, we would move on to investment readiness. This is the module 3, and I apologize for not sharing the deck. The host will be sharing it with us within this week. All right, so for the module 3, we have investment readiness. How do we ensure that we are ready for fundraising? So during the course of my career, I've met with a lot of founders that would come and say, "Oh, CFO, we need fund though." Okay, all right, you need fund. Where are your documentation? Where's your pitch deck? Where's your financial model? Where is your statement? Where are your financial statements? Your statement of profit or loss, statement of financial position, your cash flow, and all of that. And they'll say, we've not been keeping our books. Sometimes I'm usually left speechless because you can't say that you want to raise funds. You can't say that you want someone to trust you with their funds, and you don't even have the necessary things, or you've not put the necessary things that should be in place. So in this case, you want to raise whatever fundraising stage, even for grants. I know that some grants are even requesting for audited financial statements these days. So no matter what category of funding you are trying to raise or what level you are at, it is essential that you have all your information in order. You should have all your house in order. Even if you are, let's say, pre-revenue, you should be able to at least highlight your expenses. You should know the major cost drivers. You should be able to inform the investors on how much you've spent on your product so far and all of that. So your books are very, very essential, and it is important that you monitor them. Okay, we are already getting response. I'm very much excited that the house is not sleeping. All right, angel investors. Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, financial readiness checklist. So we have the traction metrics. Okay, so most VCs usually require for monthly recurring revenue growth of minimum of 20%, especially for software as a service. Your customer acquisition cost as well. Your customer acquisition cost as well. You should be able to pay back the cost on each acquired customer in less than 12 months. And then your cap table. Some people don't even understand that it is essential to have a cap table. A cap table shows all the how your equity is distributed in your organization. So if you have 3 founders and 1 investor, that should be stated in your cap table as to how the equity has been distributed. And for your pitch deck, there are certain essentials on your pitch deck that you need. I've seen someone who sent me a 1-page document pitch deck before. So for your pitch deck, there are certain things that you should have on your pitch deck, such as you capturing your problem statements and your solution. No matter how much fancy words you use on your pitch deck, if you are unable to capture your problem statement and the solution, then I don't know exactly why you are into entrepreneurship. I'm sorry to say that, but yes, it is essential for you to be able to articulate that on your pitch deck. Your market size, your total addressable market, your serviceable addressable market, and your serviceable obtainable market. All of these are essential on your decks. Your competitive analysis. There's a beautiful way that it's usually presented where you have all the organization, you have the features, and then you just mark the ones you have, and then you asterisk the ones that you don't have or your competitors don't have. And then you have your financial summary. Like I said, it's important you're able to do that. And if you maybe you do not have traction and then you're still at the idea stage, then it's important that your financial model should be projected and an extract should be on your pitch deck. Okay. All right, and then your ask, it is essential. You're asking for funding. Imagine you sent a deck and your ask is not on it. That would be counterintuitive, because the reason why you're sending your pitch deck is to raise fund, and then you're not putting the amount or what you want to use it for. So your ask should also be broken down into what you are using it for. And then you have your team strength. You should be able to brag about your team. It's important. Don't see it as, oh, I'm being pompous, I don't want to showcase it. Let them know that you have the right talent that can turn that your vision, that your idea into a profitable venture. All right. And then under investment readiness as well, another essential is your data room. Your data room should be able to capture all of these essential documents that have been mentioned, as well as your legal documentations as well. Okay, so the final module, I hope we're still on time. Yes, we are. The final module, which is post fundraising financial management for African startups. So, like I said, a lot of people just rush into fundraising for the sake of raising funds without actually thinking about what they want to use that funding for. So, it's essential that when you're funding, when let's say God has answered your prayers and that funding has arrived. So, what are those things you need to put in place? The first thing, especially for those of us that are in countries with in countries that have high inflation rates. So it is essential that you don't just immediately convert your dollar to naira, because it would lose its value really fast. So what you need to do is to ensure that you have segregated that funds and it's in a dollar account. Very important. Then you can always do your transfers when necessary. And then also, like I said, segregate your funds. Do not just add all the funds into your operational account, so that you can also monitor it properly. Paystack did something similar when they raised investment fund, which allowed them to be able to monitor their burn rates accurately. So it's important that you're able to monitor it. Your burn rate is how much you spend on operations on a monthly basis, while your runway is how long you can spend that money for. All right. So you segregate your funds. You also implement financial control. So this is no longer a co-founder thing. We call it parapo in Yoruba, Nigeria. So it's no longer a co-founder thing. Now you have third parties in place. You now have your investors in place. So it is essential you put in place internal control measures, such as certain large expenses. There should be at least two signatures to certain large expenses. So that one founder does not go and use your money to go and do Dorime. Or one founder does not use your funding to go and, you understand, to go and party or just buy a car and all of that. But if you have two signatories, then there would be check and balances in the organization. And then you should also have at least weekly or bi-weekly cash reviews with your CFO or your financial person. Okay. And then you should also understand the compliance and taxes, especially the regulations of the country where you are in operation. The moment you've announced that we've raised so amount, just know that government, you are now in the government radar. Before you raised, you can do anything you like, but the moment you raise, at that point in time, you have that visibility. All the regulatory bodies now know about you. So it is essential that you are also compliant, especially with your taxes. I know a lot of founders that don't even care about paying their taxes, but the moment you raise, you should know that you are no longer able to just hide and do whatever you like. It is also essential that you are able to budget that funding. Most times it's usually 12 months, but we know that in Nigeria, especially Africa, you might not be able to raise a follow-up round within 12 months. So you can ensure that you extend that funding for at least an 18-month period. That way you have that how do I want to put it, that allowance for the period where you are unable to raise your follow up fund. Okay. And also ensure that you are reporting to your investors at least quarterly. Let them know about your cash runway, your revenue versus your forecast. There's also something we do in accounting which is called the variance analysis. Before you raise funds, you already know exactly what you want to put those funds into. And after raising funds, you would notice that you are not exactly spending. You cannot spend the exact amount you've said that you are going to spend on different line items. So it is important that you have a variance analysis sheet that compares your forecast to the amount that you are spending. That would let you know if you are overspending or you are underspending, and then you can make provisions for all of that. Also, there's also another, I think it's like a fever that enters into founders, but the moment they raise fund, they want to hire someone from Oxford, they want to hire someone from Harvard, they want to just hire the best talent out there. As much as it is beautiful to hire the best hands out there, it is also important to know that hiring can be costly. And that's why it's always unfortunate to hear some news whereby you would hear that, oh, this organization is laying off so number of staff and all, because the moment you are unable to raise a follow-up round, you won't be able to keep that talent. So when you are budgeting, you should also ensure you are also putting that into consideration. All right. And yes, it is essential that you monitor your books. If you can't afford if you can't afford a CFO, you should be able to afford a fractional CFO. If you can't afford a fractional CFO, there are tools out there that can also help you with monitoring your financials. You have the likes of QuickBooks, you have Sage, you have other accounting tools that are out there to help you. You also have your payroll books like WorkPay, Talent QL, that can also help you to also monitor your payroll expenses. So that would be it from my own end. I would just like to summarize that the first key takeaway is to ensure to understand that funding is a tool. It is not the end goal. It is taking you from point A to point B. Therefore, do not just raise for investors, raise for the target audience that you are trying to serve. And you should also understand the different funding stage that you are currently at. Is it pre-seed? Is it seed? Is it series A, series B? And you should also understand the different kinds of funding that are available at your disposal. You have the bootstrapping, you have your grants, you have your angels, you have the VC, you also have debt financing. Also, make sure you are investment ready. Your books, don't joke with your books. If I think the least book you should have is your pitch deck. If you don't have your pitch deck, why exactly? Like, what is it? So it's just like you're going to farm and you're not taking your cutlass, your hoe, and all of that, or you're going to school and you don't have your writing materials. Then you should not even be going in the first place. So it is essential that you have your proper documentation in place. I know Bloomin does pitch deck for, where is my host? I can't see my host, but yes, I would continue. I know Bloomin. Oh, she's there. Okay, so I know Bloomin does pitch deck for businesses. Okay, and then StartMart, an organization I represent as well, does financial model for businesses. So it is essential that you have your books in place. It's very, very essential. Your cap table, also monitor your cap table. Do not give out your equity too fast. Be very careful that you are not over diluted. And I also mentioned the pitch deck essentials, such as capturing your problem statement, capturing your market size, understanding your competitors. It's essential. If you want to do better than others that are already there, you need to understand who your competitors are, the features they currently have, and what you are doing differently. You also need to be able to have your financial summary if you're already gaining traction. If not, then you should be working towards your projections, your financial models ensure your ask is captured and also your team strength. And I also gave a brief on how to also manage your post fundraising journey, such as ensuring that you're segregating the funds, you're monitoring your burn rates, you have your budget in place, you have your variance analysis, you are putting in place the necessary internal control measures and all of that. And do not enter into that hiring fever. Trust me, it is not always the right place to go. But you can hire, but ensure that you are hiring well, you are hiring rightly, you've done your budget. Even if you're unable to raise a follow-up round, you are still able to manage those you have hired. So yes, that's it from my end. Thank you so much, Blooming, for having me. Madam Victoria, to you.
Wow. All I can say is wow. Thank you so much to our speaker for that session. I have to say I gained a lot. In fact, my book is even full. Um, so we'd like to hear from our participants. If you have any questions for our speaker, please drop them in the chat and we'll address as many as we can in the next 10 minutes. While participants are dropping their questions, I'd like to say one thing that me I learned because one thing I'm taking home with me is that funding is not the end goal. It's a tool. Use it strategically. And I think that that's something that startup founders need to know, that it's not immediately you get your funding, you start using it for different things that you don't even plan for. So I feel like every one of us, even if we do not take anything home, anything at all, we should take that funding is not the end goal, it's just a tool, and that we should use it strategically. So we have some questions for our speaker, and we're going to be broadcasting it. But I think before we start with the questions, I'll just add in my own question that I have. So I'm just going to be reading the first question out, and then our speaker will answer, and then we'll go from there. So the first question is, how can we collaborate with your company in general and fashion brands? Are you working across Africa? What can we expect shortly? So I'm just going to pass it over to our speaker to gracefully answer the questions.
All right. Thank you so much to Pet Vlogs. And I assume that you run a fashion brand, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So, like during the introduction, I run two organizations. I have the venture building organization called SheFoundry Limited, which is a gender-lens one. So we cater to women founders and businesses. We have a growing community called She Founders. I don't know if you're female. I can see a lady in the profile picture, but I'm not sure if the handler is a female. But yes, we have a community for female founders. I also run StartMat CFO. So for your financial modeling needs, for your financial reporting needs as well, you can always reach out to me. I would drop my information before we leave this particular engagement so that you can always reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think the next question from Damien says, will inviting board advisors who are renowned experts in your industry help with fundraising?
All right. Thank you so much, Damien, for that beautiful question. So I think onboarding board advisor is actually a smart way to go, especially when you know that you cannot afford, right? You cannot afford certain hires, and you know this person have the expertise that you need in order to succeed in your organization. So why not hire them? And the rates that are usually given to advisors are not that high. Sometimes it's usually around that 0.5% to 1% range, so you're still gaining more. The only difference is that they won't be involved in the day-to-day activities of your business, but in terms of strategy, they can still help with the organization's objective. So yes, inviting board advisor is a very smart way to go for your fundraising, especially if you know that they have a track record in that area. They've successfully helped organizations raise funds. So why not? You can always bring them on board.
Thank you so much for your answer. We don't have more questions, but I have a question of my own. I'd like to know what the difference between a CFO and a fractional CFO is, because I've been hearing fractional CFO before now, and I don't even know what that means. So,
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Victoria Argos, for that beautiful question. I think I was also on a call with a client recently, or a potential client recently, and he was like, okay, so I've been hearing you say fractional CFO. What exactly does it mean? So, like fraction, you have a whole number one, and then fraction could be 1/2. It could be let's say 3/4. It could be anything. So what fractional CFO means is that that person is not working with you full time as your CFO, but you can still leverage their expertise to do your work. So it's also a cheaper way of actually getting the professional expertise you need for your financial needs. So that's the meaning of a fractional CFO. So a fractional CFO is more of a consultant CFO that has different portfolio that they work with. I hope I've been able to answer your question effectively, Victoria.
yes, thank you so very much. Thank you very much. I think I understand now. So if we have any more questions, please feel free to drop in the chat within 1 minute so our dear speaker can answer. So thank you very much. Before we wrap up, I would like to say thank you so much to our guests for sharing your time and your thoughts with us today. Your experience in supporting female founders is truly inspiring, and I'm sure that our audience has gained a lot. I know for myself that I have gained a lot. So, while we wait for the session, so while we wait for the last questions that we have, I would like to remind us that as we celebrate Women's Month once more, I know I said this at the beginning, but I'm a lover of women, I'm a lover of female, so I'll say it again. As we celebrate Women's Month, let us continue to support, to uplift, and to invest in women's led startups. The journey to acquiring investment and managing finances is not always easy, I know for a fact. But with the right knowledge, with the right network and determination, success is within reach. Thank you so much. So we have one more question. We have, what's the most practical method of valuing a startup for pre-seed funding purposes?
All right. Thank you so much. Please kindly give me a minute. I'm trying to type out my email so
Okay.
that those that need it can get it. So I'm sending it to the host now. That's Bloomin. So you can help me send it to. I don't know why I'm unable to join the chat. It's asking me to sign up, and I don't have that. All right. So yes, the last question, what's the most practical methods of valuing a startup for pre-seed funding purposes? Okay, so just like I said, I work on financial model for businesses, and the valuation method that I actually use for those businesses are the discounted cash flow model as well as the comparable analysis. Because I deal mostly with startups, so the financial model is usually forecasting and projecting what they are able to do in the next 5 years based on the market size and based on some other factors that needs to be considered. So the discounted cash flow model uses the financial model as basis, and then there's a whole lot of computations that go into that. Then for the comparable analysis is checking organizations that have done something similar and then picking up their metrics. So you could have the revenue and then some other metrics, and then that is when you hear, oh, we are able to do 10x, or we are projecting to do 10x, we are projecting to do 5x. So that is majorly a comparable analysis based on others that are already in the stock market or those that have already raised. So you do a median of that. That is also like a lot of computation. You do a median of that, then you pick up the revenue that you projected, and then you multiply it by the number of X that you have gotten through the median. So we just call it, just for the sake of non financial experts, we call it the comparable analysis, and then we also have the discounted cash flow model. So those are the two two valuation methods I use for my clients.
Thank you very much. Thank you so, so much. Before we end the session, I would like to say that if you would like to follow our speaker, her social medias are being displayed right now, so you can just copy. We have Kikelomo.Owoyale at SheFoundry.com, and we also have startsmartcfo@gmail.com. I'd like to say once more, thank you for your time, thank you for your expertise, for your experience, and to our participants, thank you for making this an engaging session. If you enjoyed today's webinar, be sure to check out our upcoming sessions and to share your feedback. Thank you all for joining us today. Stay inspired, stay ambitious, and keep building your dreams. Have a great night.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
everyone for listening. Bye. Bye,
Okay,
Victoria.
bye.